All right, I guess we're gonna get started. Super excited to have you guys here this afternoon with us. My name is Meegan. I am the Agency Services Manager here at FeedMore. And I'm joined with Elyse, who's on the other side of the room. We're practicing social distancing. She's on the other side of the room.
Hello, everybody.
So today's session, we really wanted to talk about talking about emergency preparedness, but I guess more so about the lessons we've learned from COVID and how that tested some of our systems that we have in place, or how this introduced new systems into place. So we are just going to talk about a few things in terms of, our vulnerabilities, successes, challenges, planning for the future. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to put up a PowerPoint. Like I said, please be patient with me. This is all very new. So can everybody see our slideshow? You can see it? Okay, great. Okay, so let's see. A little bit of an overview. We're going to be talking about the roles of emergency food relief organizations. We talked about lessons learned and the vulnerabilities that we saw throughout the pandemic, or at least the height of the pandemic, and planning for the future, talking about alternative distribution models, proper closure procedures, because we are moving into our inclement weather times. So we want to talk a little bit about that and additional resources that we can provide or have available to you. So just quick definition, Emergency Food Relief Organization, which is EFRO, which is a term that we throw around here at FeedMore. And that's agencies such as food pantries, soup kitchens, and emergency shelters that meets the needs of people in need of emergency food assistance. And that's actually, if you receive that HIPNAP funding, you are then an EFRO. And as a fellow emergency relief organization, FeedMore, we're committed to assisting you during these times of emergencies. So at any point in time, please don't ever feel like you're alone, because we are here to assist you in any step of the way. So first we want to talk about kind of the lessons we learned from COVID. That really something that I don't think I've ever had to deal with before. So we kind of came up with some major themes that we've seen across the network of, the vulnerabilities of our agencies. And we wanted to provide some more guidance or assistance in these types of areas and give you some tips and tricks and ideas of how to address these vulnerabilities if you seem to have some of them in your agency. The first one being staff and volunteers. We really saw that sometimes, because of quarantining and somebody getting sick and things like that, you might have lost an essential person in your team. So we want to ensure that, if that is to happen and you lose a core person in your pantry or soup kitchen or shelter operations, we want to make sure that there are backup plans. We've talked about this in many sessions before, but I think we really want to emphasize it. In seminars before, I think what COVID taught, it's really essential for us to have these type of backup plans and co-training and succession planning. So having a backup contact for each person within your agency. So if you are the main person for ordering, you need to make sure that you have a backups person, one that has been trained, that's attended FeedMore trainings, and two, that you're able to rely on if you happen to be out for a significant amount of time. So main contact too for FeedMore. So if you have a separate person for ordering and you're the main contact for FeedMore, making sure that you have a backup person to have that. We always have that communication with FeedMore, and then monthly reporting too, to ensure that you're sending in your statistics and on time, and making sure that you have somebody backing you up on that can do that in your absence. We offer all those trainings, like I said, on reporting, ordering, and anything like that. Or if you need one-on-one assistance, we're here to be able to do that for you. We really highly encourage you to come up with succession planning if you have not already done so, or trainings if you want assistance in how to do that, or templates or things like that. We can definitely assist you. I've been taking some time to research different, emergency plans and backup plans and things like that. So I'd be more than willing to help you through that process if it's something you want to put into place in your agency. Also having a list of roles and responsibilities. If you have many volunteers in your agencies that can do things, that has like ordering capabilities, communication to clients and reporting, making sure you have a list of that, who does what. So if you have newer volunteers that are coming in, they know who to report to or who they can ask questions. We want to make sure that, like I said, we just want that the roles and responsibilities of our volunteers and staff within our agencies is clear, and that in the case of an emergency too. So if FeedMore needs to get in touch with you, we have those contacts in the right spots. And also too, I think is really important is who's communicating to your clients, obviously, making sure that you have some tools in place that if you are to close down or you are changing your operations, to make sure that you have those, the flow of information to your clients, making sure that's right. And then two, for agency access, this is something that we saw that a lot of agencies maybe are inside churches, and the churches had to close down. So how can they access their agencies? But I guess making sure that you have that information on site. So if you are housed in some other location, to ensure that you know who you're supposed to contact for that building if you need to get in there. So that's really important. Just having all of those lists of people, roles and responsibilities listed out. So if something is to happen, your agency volunteers and staff will know who is responsible for what. And then I think something that we found very useful and here on FeedMore's end is information, like storage of information and sharing of information, important information, such as usernames, passwords, documents, and things like that. And we really utilized Google Docs throughout this entire situation. I know some of us were working from home and we were, passing things back and forth, but Google Documents is something that you can share with multiple people, and multiple people can make edits. So if you wanted to create something, but remotely, you can do so using something like Google Documents. We just found that to be a useful resource during this time and wanted to pass that information along to you. And if you found that, or if you want some more help with Google Documents, they can be a little confusing at first. I'd be willing to sit down and walk anybody through that. Like I said, it's just easy. It's a great way to share information, important information between multiple people via, when you're at home on your computer. So that's just something we wanted to share with you. I just want to make sure I check my notes. The second vulnerability, I touched upon it in that slide, was your location of your agency. Is your agency located within another building? Are you able to, do you have personal access to that building, or do you have to go through somebody else to get that building open? So in terms of an emergency, and we was test obviously with COVID, if that building closed down, does that mean that the agency has to close down? And if that's the case and something in the future, it's something we want to know, because we want to be able to help you through that, because we want to be able to respond to these emergencies effectively. And we want to make sure that, as we want to support you as our agencies. And in that case, if you cannot stay open because that building is closed, are there other options such as outdoor space? Many of you had seen our mobile pantry really be mobilized during this time, because we obviously didn't want to be indoors. So mobile is an option to have everything outdoors. Now with winter coming, we know that may be a little bit of a dicey time, but we can still try to meet the need as best as we can if you are unable to get into your building or your building is closed. Additionally, who has access to your agency? This is clients, like what are the special needs of the people you serve? And we're going to touch upon delivery in a second, because we found something that to be very important during this time. And where else can you refer your clients to if you have to close? And I will touch upon that as well. And then volunteers and staff, how many people have access to your building? So access can mean a few different things, but we just want to ensure that, if your building is to close down or you don't have access to that building, what other options can we come up with in order for you to be able to serve your community? And I'll pass this on over to Elyse. She's going to talk to you a little bit about supplies.
Okay, I unmuted myself. Sorry, everybody. I know there was a bit of an echo that I got some messages about. So, Jen, I don't know if you want to mute yourself so that we can prevent that just in case. So apologize for that in advance. but hopefully everyone can hear me now. So we wanted to touch a little bit about supplies as well. So this was a big conversation and a big point of interest for all of our agencies. And supplies are something that you're going to want to need that are COVID-19 specific, and also general other supplies in any other type of emergency that may happen. A couple years ago at our Hope Summit, we did an emergency preparedness presentation. I actually did it, and we touched nothing on a global pandemic because I think it was something that none of us really expected. So we have to, number one, expect the expected. We're going to have some weather issues, and we're going to have inclement weather in the winter months. If you're in areas of flooding, you're going to have those kind of situations, and we can prepare ourselves for a potential second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, by knowing what we needed on the first round. So COVID-19 specific supplies, personal protective equipment, obviously that was a huge conversation that was had, in March and April. So having masks and gloves available if they are available for you to obtain. I know here at FeedMore, we currently do have masks by 2 agencies. Gloves is something we're trying to get as well as much as possible for the fall and for the upcoming months. Hand sanitizer as well. We got a lot of those from New York State, which was wonderful for us to be able to provide to all of our agencies. But things like bags and to-go containers, those are hot commodities right now. I think that we all know that. What we will say too, those are going to be things that you're going to want to obtain to be prepared, to make sure that you are prepared for another wave if that is something that is going to happen. We were talking on our end and make sure that you want to prioritize the purchase of your supplies. Making sure that you have things on hand like a first aid kit, flashlights, batteries, radio, some tools to fix up things if you need to do that. An emergency like a broken down refrigerator or freezer, those are emergencies as well. So being able to prepare for those as much as possible. Also having a disaster plan, your agency documents at the ready if those are needed, and an emergency contact list of volunteers and staff that need to be notified if there is a closure or if there is anything that they need to be informed about. I touched a little bit on prioritizing the purchase of supplies. We here at FeedMore, we upped the agency limits, so increase the amount of food that you're able to get from our warehouse. So hopefully that can free up some room in your budget to be able to purchase any supplies that we may not be able to provide to you. So, we've kind of had sporadic inventory of things like bags and to-go containers that we've really been pushing out as much as possible to our agencies, as well as those masks and gloves. But prioritizing those things and finding room in the budget for those things that we may not be able to provide. If we are able to provide more things such as food or other supplies that you may have needed to purchase in the past. Okay, we'll switch to the next one. Jen's got control of the PowerPoint, so gotta communicate to each other. So let's see. Another thing that Jen touched upon as well is delivery to our clients. This was something that a lot of clients would either call FeedMore, or I'm sure a lot of the agencies on the call have gotten as well. Requests for delivery to either quarantined clients who were afraid to leave their homes, not able to leave their homes for whatever reason. And this can be something to think about in the future. I know we got an influx of these calls, and we did try to make as many deliveries as possible, but deliveries of emergency food boxes are not going to be a long-term solution for a lot of our clients. So we really tried to, make sure that our clients knew that they could have a proxy, another person come to your agencies and pick up food on their behalf. But again, a lot of clients really preferred a delivery method. So although this isn't a requirement for any of your agencies to provide as a service to your clients, this could be something that you could assess internally if you're capable of doing so. You know, I think that, again, if we go through a second wave, I know we've seen the numbers kind of tick up a little bit as schools have reopened and people have gotten back to work, that it might happen again where a lot of people are looking for deliveries. So if you have a system in place to do deliveries to your clients, or, you know, you are willing to share how that has helped your clients, or share the system that you have in place, I think that that could be something that could be really beneficial for a lot of other agencies and a lot of their clients as well.
I'm just going to chime in just for a second. And if you, these are just a few major themes of vulnerabilities that we've seen throughout the network. If you have something to share in terms of, you know, your personal experience within your agency, you know, feel free to type it in the chat box. We want to hear about it. We want to hear a little bit more about internally if something else is popping up, and we would like to hear more about it.
Yes, absolutely. So I made this little graphic and I hope that it's helpful. I'm a visual person. Communication was a huge aspect and a huge vulnerability that was occurring. You know, we started I think they were weekly agency calls. We changed them to monthly agency calls, but this communication and flow of information is so important for all of our agencies. If we don't know what is going on with our agencies, we can't help. So we want to know, you know, everything that you need, everything that is coming up, you know, at the boots on the ground level for your clients, and the things that you need so that we can provide them to you. And we're doing the same. You know, we represent our agencies on a state or county level and to the federal services as well. So you kind of look at this as the flow of information going from the local agency, from the food pantry, soup kitchen, dining site level, flowing that information up to us here at FeedMore, and then we can flow that information to the state and county-based services and to federal services as well. That's where our resources are going to come from. So it's kind of like a census, if you think of it that way. And a quick plug for the census. What? Did I click mute? Oh, sorry, I think I'm back. But if you flow your information to reporting to our you know, federal services, our state and county services, that's the way that they know how many people are in need, what they need, and can send those resources down to, you know, the local agencies. In addition to that, there's a little circle arrow that goes through the agencies as well. Creating local coalitions and talking to each other is going to be a huge communication tool as well. So if there are two agencies in Niagara Falls and one of them has had to close because of an internal emergency or because of whatever reason, that agency down the street or a couple blocks away would really appreciate knowing that information. And, you know, you can refer your services to the other agency. You can refer your clients to the other agency that is there. But I think that we can all say it would be nice to know if our clients are going to double in the next week or whatever it may be. So, you know, communicating with each other and communicating with, you know, the agencies that are close to you, I think is something that probably is going to be touched on in every single of these virtual summits that we do. And I think it's been something that we've mentioned at every summit that we've ever done, but that's because it is just so important to be talking to each other and sharing all of that information so that we can provide the right resources to each of the agencies.
And then you'll also see, I'm sure many of you got my, oopsies, when you don't move in here a little bit, the lights. Okay, we're back. That happened to me earlier. Forgot about that. What was I saying? You had last week I had sent a emergency test email, and that's just a way for us if we needed to get information to you very quickly. We wanted to see how fast and, you know, making sure that we can get information to you. So thank you for everybody that replied to that. We got really great responses. We got all the responses. I'm actually still compiling them because there's hundreds of you. But I want to thank you for doing that, because that's, like I said, email is probably the most efficient way for us to get information to you, because there are so many of us in the network. So thank you for participating in that. Maybe look for more for like those things to come in the future, just so we can continue testing our emergency capabilities.
Okay, so we've all really had to change up the distribution methods as well that we have done. Most of our agencies, who were client choice have switched to either pre-packed models, we've gone drive-through models, and there are going to be, pros and cons to each of those. So we'll just kind of go through the different ideas of ways that you can distribute food, and just kind of talk through them and, what's good, what's bad, and what'll work for you on at your site. So the first one is a way that most of our mobile pantries have gone and transformed into a drive-through model. And this was, all of the mobile pantries that we introduced during the spring were all going through this drive-through model as well. So in the picture here, you can see at one of our agencies, we had lines of cars come through the parking lot, and we had volunteers load right into the trunks of individuals. So we had representatives talk to the driver, get their information that they need on those sign-in sheets, and then put in the appropriate number of boxes or produce or whatever it is directly into their cars. So obviously a good thing about this one for the pandemic is that it's contactless. People are not entering your building. You have control of how far away you are from that driver as well to be getting that information. And it's also can be good for inclement weather. Obviously your volunteers and your staff is going to be have to be out and loading up cars, but for your clients, they can stay right in their own car. There is an extra comfort level to be able to have kind of that independence to be able to stay in their car, and to be able to stay a little bit more distant from each of your volunteers or your clients. With this way, there are pre-packed bags or pre-packed boxes that were put into the cars, but there is always the possibility to include an element of client choice in this model as well. And I'll go into that into the next slide. So pre-packed bags as well. You can obviously pre-pack your bags using that HipNap model if you are a food pantry, or you can get to-go containers if you are a soup kitchen, and utilizing volunteers in shifts. You can pre-pack those bags a day, 2 days, a week in advance of a distribution that you're going to be doing. And those don't all have to be at the same time. Volunteers can come at different times of the day or different days to be able to pack those bags together for your clients to either come pick up, whether it's a drive-through model, if your parking lot or your agency doesn't allow for something like that to happen. You can have, people come right to the door and serve them out the door, or come into a room and do it that way. There's a lot of different ways that each of these models can be utilized. So just like you can space out your volunteers for shifts of packing those bags, you can space out the pickup times for your clients as well. So maybe you have appointment times that you can have clients come to pick up. You can have different times during the day, or a span of time that people are available to come to your site and pick up their bags. And again, there's the possibility to include client choice on this. Maybe people call ahead and you let them know what you have available or something like that. There is, different things that you can do to include that client choice. So I'll talk about that client choice aspect on the next slide. So there are different ways you can do client choice. There can be a semi-client choice model, or there can be full client choice. And all of our agencies have been doing this in different ways. So you can see a picture here. This is down in Jamestown, and the agency there has rollout carts where they display the food items that they have available, and individuals can pick from those items that they have. It's a nice visual representation of the selections that they have to be able to choose what they want. So you can do that with rolling rack displays like Jamestown did here, possibly with a shopping list. Where people can either orders can be placed ahead of time in advance of distribution via a phone call. I know we're doing some internal investigation about online ordering that can be placed, like a software where you can get possibly an email or those magical Google Docs that Jen was talking about, and have orders placed ahead of time. So even though you are pre-packing a bag, there can still be that independence that clients have to be able to choose the food items that they want to receive. So again, through those rolling rack displays or through those shopping lists. And then a full client choice model. We have agencies who have stayed full client choice throughout this whole pandemic as well. People have been able to move their racks outside, outdoors, so people can select, so clients can select the items that they want outdoors. Or adjusting your layout to promote social distancing. This can be something as easy as just rearranging where your shelving is in your pantry to be able to maintain that distance between people as well. And again, orders can be placed in advance of distribution, or appointments can be made so that you know that you will only have one client at a time coming to your pantry or picking up their meal for a soup kitchen, for example. Some resources that you can use on our website in the agency services tab, we have a New York State reopening plan. So it's similar to I think it's the same as the retail model of how to reopen, and you can utilize that to just ask a lot more questions and, type out how you are going to reopen and how you are going to promote that social distancing and maintain that. We also have Marla and Ariel here on staff. There are community nutrition educators who have kind of worked that into their plan for what they do in their job to be able to help clients to help agencies maintain that level of client choice. That's something that we always want to maintain, a level of client choice, however much that can be. They can definitely help you out with that of, finding different models that would work for your agency.
All right, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about closure procedures, and we hope that if there was a second wave, our goal is for everybody to stay open, but in the case that you may have to close, there are certain procedures that we hope to have you follow, but we're also looking into the winter months, and sometimes due to weather we do have to close, so we just wanted to give you some procedures to follow if that is the case. Like I said, a closure for an emergency or during a pandemic, our goal is to stay open, and we want to do whatever we can to assist you, whether it be with volunteer recruitment, things like that. If you feel as though that you might be having to close because of a second wave, please let us know, because we'd really like to help you do whatever you can to stay open and in the safest way possible. So when we're talking about closure procedures, it's like short-term versus long-term. Short-term, I like to think of as it's a snow day, and that happens all the time. So there's the way that we would handle a snow day versus, maybe a couple weeks or a month. Long-term closure would be different. Regardless, if you do have to close for a short-term or a long-term, we would just like to know. Your first call would hopefully be to us, because we like to ensure that anytime a client calls and we refer them to an agency, that we are referring them correctly and we know that you will be open. So if you happen to need to be closed, we'd like to know that, so we don't refer to your clients to your agency, or just ensuring that we know that you are not open at the moment. If you do have to close, whether it be a snow day or long-term, here's a few of the different ways we would like for you to alert the public of your closure. Obviously notifying FeedMore, reporting your closure to the local news station. We obviously know that everybody, when it is weather related, even during the pandemic too, I noticed that they had a lot of those closures listed on their TV stations. So reporting those to the local news stations. If you do have to close it for a snow day and or long-term, that can be an avenue for you to do so. Social media, if you have a Facebook or if you have a Twitter or anything like that you utilize, we would recommend that you use social media to alert the public that you're closed. If you have an answering machine for your agency, leaving a message, if you can change it remotely, please, you can change your answering machine to let them know of your closure. And then lastly, a signage on your door, because obviously sometimes people might miss some of these other avenues in which you're trying to post information. Long-term specifically, if you're long-term closure, we would encourage you to have a sign on your door to say it's the contact information of the nearest agency that is open. So that person that might be going to your agency is not without food assistance. So there's some different avenues for you to alert the public to note that you are closed. Like I mentioned though, that is a last resort that we want you to close. Obviously for weather related, we all know that we have issues. We all know, I don't want to drive in the snow either. So some of those are unavoidable, but in terms of if there is a second wave, or, however this might play out in the future, if you're thinking about closing or you might think you don't have the resources to stay open, please let us know immediately. We would really like to help you and try to find some solutions for you to still continue to operate. So please just let us know. We'd want to be helpful to you. And then talking about going forward, obviously, like I said, COVID kind of turned us up on our heads, and revising of emergency plans or creating new ones is probably in the future for all of us. Because as I was researching a lot of emergency plans, a lot of them did not include pandemic. So that's just a new chapter that we're going to have to put into those emergency plans and planning for different scenarios. So adding something like that to an emergency plan is really important. And Elyse mentioned, like emergencies can be something as large as a pandemic or as small as possibly like your refrigerator breaking or your freezer breaking and you're losing some product. So planning for the large and small, I think is really important moving forward. And then also too, because I don't envision that this pandemic is going to, change or, the procedures to how to deal with it will be changing in the future. So obviously we want to continue to plan for social distancing, limiting contact. We want to keep you, your staff, your volunteers, our clients very safe. But I think everybody's been really good at enforcing those rules and feeling safe and comfortable. But if you're still having some issues or you want to bounce some ideas on us to continue, for social distancing, limiting contact procedures, please let us know. We're really grateful that the USDA has extended that COVID sign-in sheet till the end of the year, because I think that's really helpful for us limiting contact. And that's really important for us during going into the winter months and still dealing with COVID. So really happy that we're able to still do that. And then we want to talk about additional resources.
Yeah, so we have some resources available for you to be able to utilize as we're moving forward here. Like I said, two of those resources that we have are internal staff members, and Marla and Ariel, as well as Karen Hufford, our nutrition resource manager, will be doing a session tomorrow, October 6th. And they will be talking about choosing healthy food items and things like that. But they are also going to be talking a little bit about, I want to say, sorry if I'm wrong about this, but talking a little bit about your reopening plans and how to do that in the pandemic. So I will say that they are great resources and can really help out a lot for making sure that you're having as much client choice in your pantry as possible.
And I have here, and I'm going to exit out of my slideshow really quick. Let's see how savvy I can be doing this. I have a few, like I said, I've been researching some different options and looking at emergency plans and things like that. This one I found from the Department of Homeland Security about preparing my business in an emergency was something that I found pretty helpful. Let's see if I can get to it. That's not it. Let's see here. If I go. Yeah, it looks like I want to do, is it control? It's not letting me do that. Can you still see my screen? I just want to make sure. Okay. So this one was just preparing your business for an emergency, starting here, and it was kind of just going through planning, implementation, testing, program improvement. This is pretty intricate stuff, but I thought it was just, sometimes different resources can make you think of something else. So I wanted to share that one. I also found a template that I thought may be useful to our agencies. And I will be sharing these on our website, and I can also email them to you because I have all your email addresses, and just a template of, just starting to build out your emergency plan if you don't have one, or if you want to revise the one that you do have. Like I said, I'm actually still trying to I haven't found a pandemic chapter to add to your emergency plans yet, or one that might be working well for agencies such as yours. So I'm still looking for something like that. But just wanted to pass along these two resources if you wanted to, like I said, revise your emergency plan or start one. I thought these two were very useful in that regard. So I will be sharing both of those with you. I can email them to you if you would like.
Okay, and I will say there were a few questions in the chat box that I'm just going to mention for anybody who's on the phone or can't see it. So there is a question that says, due to COVID-19, is there any pantries who can supply a quarantined family for 30 days? I asked for a clarification for that one on if this person means, are you looking for pantries who are capable of supplying this much food, or are you asking if this is something that you are allowed to do? So Jen, I'll leave that to you if that is something that you are allowed to do.
You have to unmute.
I'm sorry, Elyse can hear me. I'm going to ask Michael for clarification for that, because usually we're used to, obviously the minimum requirements is 3 days. I do know agencies do provide food for longer than that, but because usually too, if a family is quarantined for 30 days, that would probably mean we wouldn't be able to provide as much fresh items. And I think that's really important for us as an organization is always providing fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, dairies, and things like that. So I will get more further clarification about that. So Lisa, I will get back to you on that one. And then I see a question from Colleen, will the online form be compatible with cell phones? Do you mean which online form?
So I think Colleen is talking about the pre-ordering that we were talking about. So currently we are researching systems to be able to do like a pre-order model. I know there's a food pantry at Buff State who has an online form where you can kind of click through, almost like a Survey Monkey, where you can click through and choose which items they have available, and then they pre-pack bags for you and then have them available for their clients. So I will say, so Colleen was mentioning, are they going to be compatible with cell phones? Because not all documents, such as Google Docs, are compatible with cell phones, and not all clients are going to have access to computers or laptops, which I think is a great point. I will say we are still researching those platforms, and that is something that we will definitely keep in mind, and I think is something that's really important to make sure that we're having something that's going to make sense for our clients to utilize.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
I guess we can take this time. Is there any, questions that anybody has, comments about things that you have done during this pandemic that you would like to share with the rest of the people on this call or anything like that? You can unmute yourself or type anything into the chat. Oh my God, we went back again. If you want to unmute yourself, or if you want to type anything into the chat box, and we can do our best to talk about those as well. We'll give everybody a minute or two to do that.
Can we just call then and get a copy of this template?
I can, Mary, I can send this. Are you talking about the emergency sample plan?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll email that to you if you would like.
Thank you very much.
I would like it too, Jen.
I'm just going to throw it to I have a list of all your email addresses. I'm just going to email it to y'all. So I have everybody. And like I said, it's not like if yours needs to change or looks different, feel free to add or whatever. I just was trying to find an easy template that everybody can probably start with and just make and adapt it to your own organization.
I apologize. I missed the first part of the webinar just because of other conflicts with scheduling. Is it possible to pull up the first few slides and kind of just, you don't have to go through them, but just so I can read through them real quick, or if anybody else came on late, so we can just see the slides real quick again from the beginning?
Sure, and actually we are going to have this available as a recording on our website.
Oh, that's even-
So if you ever want to access it at a different time, feel free to do so. I'm trying to share my screen again. Can you see
I
this
just wanted
again?
to see, maybe I had questions then, so I just kind
Oh,
of.
that's fine. Yeah, here, I'll get, yeah, I can leave this up for you. And like I said, we will put this up on our website. Once all the seminars and sessions are over, we are recording all of these. So we will have these resources available to everybody.
I actually have a comment on this lesson learned one.
Cool. Do you have a lesson learned?
In a way, our food pantry actually, before the pandemic, was one of our senior citizens. She kind of did all the intaking and, signed everybody in when they came in, and she actually packed the bags and gave them to them. We had another person that was starting to come in to help her with packing the bags. She was in her 70s, but she enjoyed it. It kept her going. Well, with the pandemic, we really can't have her in because she is a vulnerable population. So, I personally, who could have done it, I have my own respiratory issues, so I wasn't able to go into the office right away either. So in order to keep our agency open, we had to figure out something else. So we ended up having, luckily we are a community services agency, so we have more staff than just food pantry staff. We literally had to pull staff from other departments who could no longer do their regular job because of the pandemic, but we still wanted to keep them on the payroll. I ended up having to do a training session, a virtual training session for them to show them what they needed to do and talk to them about how they could pack the bags, how they take the intakes, and how they do everything in order to have our food pantry stay open. Luckily, we were able to stay open through the whole time. We didn't have to close it all, but we had to change how we were doing things. We don't have people coming into our agency anymore. We take their information through the door and then we pack their bags and give them to them. So the client choice has changed a little bit because we no longer have that ability to give them their choice. Like we were doing an inventory client choice. So now what we do to give them some type of a choice, we ask them, do you eat pork? Do you like certain things? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that we can at least make sure we're not giving them things that they're not going to use and kind of focus on those things that they are. That was kind of the only way that we could really implement the client choice with limited contact. Otherwise, we'd have to give them a sheet to fill out and then they're touching that, they're touching, you know what I mean? So we kind of had to figure out a lot of different ways to change things up in order to continue to keep the pantry open. So the lesson learned was make sure you have a lot of backup.
Exactly. And that's what I
sure,
think that's
because-
like, especially like if you're like a one person show, which some of our agencies are, that one person is responsible for ordering, contact, billing, things like that. We want to hear from you because we really want to set you up for the future. If something was to happen to you, your agency might have to shut down. So we don't want that to happen. And
Right.
that's a lot of responsibility for one person to take on in general. So we want to make sure that there's backup and resources for you in place, that you don't feel that pressure that if something happens to you, your agency closes. We want to be able to provide resources in order to prevent that. So thank you for sharing that story. I appreciate that. Because
And the other thing too was we did one staff member or one volunteer has to be certified through your food pantry certification program, whether it's the 3-year or
food safety,
4 or 5-year, either one. Believe it or not, the staff that was helping out, they were a younger group. There was 7 of them that have been helping out through the thing. And I always end up going and getting trained in one capacity or another so that I have that. They actually all wanted to go through the training.
Oh,
So
nice.
we did 8 of us. So now that we have 8 people on staff who have that certification to help out with pantries, which, if they go someplace else, they still have that certificate and they can help with other places. So, I was surprised that they really wanted to continue. I even
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Food safety is actually super important. I'm shocked we didn't think of sharing that, but the food safety for sure is really important. And actually, Karen Hufford, our nutrition resource manager, is offering that certification tomorrow morning, the 3-year one tomorrow for food pantries and soup kitchens. And that's going to be available online in the future. So you're going to be able to take it at your will. It's not something that you're going to have to wait for us to offer. ServSafe is a different story. ServSafe is the more advanced one, but the basic food safety for food pantries and soup kitchens is going to be available online for people to take on their own. So if you do come across that you're in that situation again, where your people that have been certified are no longer able to volunteer or have, what have you, you'll be able to get that, access that on your own. So thank you for bringing food safety up. I appreciate that. I love food safety.
And I have a question to add, or just a comment to make too. Our food pantry was also able to stay open the entire time. We were blessed with having a lot of people who are over 60 and still were volunteers and came and took care of things. But one of the hardest things was to have social services and 211 give out our information to people that we had no way of helping. So we're in Eggertsville, and I got a phone call one day from a woman in tears. She didn't have any food. And I finally, we didn't have anything set up for delivery at that time. And she lived in South Buffalo. And we finally ended up having to call 211 and social services and ask, please, it's not that we don't want to help. It's going to be very difficult for us to help.
And if that's the case, if any agency comes across that in the future, because we did see that a bunch of times, is that somebody was going to an agency or calling an agency that was not really in their location or area, please feel free to refer back to FeedMore and then have them call us, because we will then make that proper referral to that spot. And also ensuring 211 does have your information on their website, but also, and people call 211, that they would then share your information. I would highly encourage you to reach out to 211 to ensure that your information is correct. During the height of COVID, we were sharing a bunch of information between us and 211 to ensure that our lists were proper. But if you want to reach out to them, just to ensure that your information is correct with them, I would encourage you to do so. But yeah, if you ever receive a phone call from a client that's nowhere near you where you would serve, I would highly encourage you to refer them back to us, and then we will get them to the right spot.
And I actually did get a very nice lady by the name of Jennifer at your organization. I finally got in touch with her, and she's the one that said, here's the phone number, have them call us. And it made life so much easier.
That was me.
Was it you? I didn't know. I didn't get Jennifer's last name. Hi, Jennifer. This is Adrian.
Hi, Adrian. Nope, that was me.
Yeah, all right. You made the day. I'll tell you what, like I said, it was so hard to tell people that needed help. No, and you yes, you were the light in that dark tunnel. Thank you.
Appreciate that. No, every time that we're here to always back you up. So don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Hey, Jen and Elyse, this is Kim Reynolds.
Hi, Kim. You're on the go, aren't you?
I am on the go. We're actually tabling at the Cheektowaga Farmers Market with the food pantry. Yes, we're headed over there. I just want to tack on to this lesson learned. I'll give you a 30-second, and it combines with the emergency preparedness. I was one of the first 300 tested with COVID back in March. And right off the bat, we found out that I had to rely on every single one of my volunteers, because for 21 days I couldn't be there. So in your emergency preparedness, make sure that you have somebody that knows every single thing you do in your pantry. It wasn't something, I had 12 hours to prepare for that. And that was literally 21 days. So that's my only lesson learned, along with your emergency preparedness, to make sure that you have somebody, because you know what, you're the most important person on that at that moment, the director, whoever's leading. And if you can't be there, you can't put your volunteers, your staff, and your clients into a position where they're scrambling. So We had that in place already. I'm very thankful. And I came back after 21 days and I don't think they needed me for 1 minute. So I put that back on, I don't, but I put that back on our volunteers. They chose, and I pulled on every skill set they had all these years. So that's my only tidbit to everybody out there. Don't wait for the crisis. Prepare for the crisis ahead of time. Make sure that part of that plan is the fact that you may not be in that building, an hour later. So that's it. Just wanted to jump in there.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. And I actually had the pleasure of going to Kim at Resurrection Life a couple of weeks ago. And the way that they're preparing for the winter time with your salt cave, I think it's called, and your drive-through model is actually super duper impressive. So if anybody ever wants to see a drive-through model that is top notch, I would definitely head over to Resurrection Life and what they're probably to be doing in the winter time. It's pretty impressive.
I'll tell you what, and that didn't cost us anything as far as we're doing a drive-through registration. We got an insurance company to pay for it. So it's costing them $3,200. They'll be the sponsor of it. Mm-hmm. And it's a drive-through registration on a trailer with double drive-through windows. So, I mean, there's another lesson learned. Everybody wants to help during this pandemic. And I'll tell you what, we stand at the front of the line without even knowing it. People want to help us. So don't be afraid to reach out to the community if you have needs, if you know something's going to make it easier for your clients, for your volunteers, whoever it might be. There are people waiting in line to help basic human needs agencies, and don't be afraid to ask. I call ourselves professional beggars. That's what we do, but we're not doing it for us. We're doing it for our clients, for the community. So don't ever, I used to get shy. Elyse is like, yeah, right. I used to get shy. But I don't. I'm a professional beggar for the community. But just remember, if you have a need out there, you're at the front of the line and you don't even know it. So, reach out, talk to Elyse and Jen. I'm sure they have every resource available and tap into it. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Kim. All right. Anybody else have anything to share or questions or anything
I
like
just
that?
have a quick question, and
Sure.
you may not even know. When we do the mobile food pantry, we get the produce along with the prepackaged boxes. If this continues throughout the winter time, would we still be getting produce boxes? I mean, there's not a lot of produce in the winter, so I was wondering how that was going to affect the mobile pantries.
Hi, yes, this is Elyse. So the pre-packed boxes that you've probably been seeing on the shopping list and that have also been available at a lot of our mobile pantries, that is the CFAP program. So that's the Farmers to Families program that has been, through the USDA. It's part of the government's response to the pandemic. So we've been getting those produce boxes from them. As of September 30th, that program has completely changed. So we are still working out, and things are changing truly every day about that program, how it's going to work, how it's going to be overseen, who our vendor is going to be, what their requirements are. So we're just a couple days into this. Is it the third leg of this? It's like the second, I don't know. It's but it's always changing. So that is something that I can't say, unfortunately, with 100% certainty what that is going to look like into the winter months. But it's a program that is going to continue, but how it is going to look is going to fluctuate, hopefully, and be, solidified very soon. So I'm sorry that there's not more information that I can give to you at this point, but we're working with the local vendors to find more about that. Brendan Speller is our food procurement coordinator. I'm sure a lot of you know him, and he will be doing one of these on Thursday, I believe. Said Thursday.
Amber, as our new retail partnerships coordinator, is actually doing a retail partnerships session on Thursday. So I'm not quite sure how much they're going to be talking about possible CFAP boxes, but I think once we have a clear picture of what CFAP is going to look like, I'm sure we'll be notifying everybody about what that is going to be. But it's everything as it was in the previous, in the height of the pandemic, things are changing daily. So we want to make sure that whatever information that we're passing along to you is the correct information. So we just want to solidify that first.
Elyse, I have a quick question. I'm so sorry. I missed the beginning as well. Did I just hear, is the mobile food pantry going to continue in November and December this year?
No, unfortunately, it is not.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Just, wanted to check that out.
Yep,
Second
I hear
thing,
ya.
real quick, one last thing that I was thinking about. We've had a lot of issues with our seniors, as has every food pantry, I'm sure. Them not being able to get to us. We partnered with our local senior services program. And anytime we have an issue with a senior 60 and over now, we contact the director over there and she steps in. And if we need to deliver food, they've been amazing. And they've been delivering food to seniors in Cheektowaga that cannot get to us or might need help. So for other pantries, you may want to touch base with your senior service centers.
It's a great point. Thank you, Kim. And, kind of goes off on, what we were talking about before as well, with delivery as being a huge, huge push, and definitely a lesson that we have learned as being something that so many, especially our seniors who, can have trouble getting to food pantries in the first place. But then when there's a global pandemic that, specifically is very harmful to them, I would say finding partnerships and finding volunteers and things like that that can help with deliveries would be extremely beneficial. So that's a wonderful partnership. I'm glad that's going on in Cheektowaga.
All right. Well, we don't want to take I'm sorry. Does somebody else want to talk? I'm sorry.
Just from what Kim said, that question she had. So there will be mobile pantries in October, but nothing in November and December or January, going forward after October. Is that what it is?
In November and December, we stop our mobile food pantry program in Erie and Niagara counties because we have so many more pickups and deliveries and things like that our warehouse trucks, are already occupied as doing. So that will pick up again in January. And Colleen, I'll talk to you a little bit more offline as well about, because there's a lot of conversations that we'll have later in the Black Rock area specifically. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. But the mobile pantry will pick up again in January for Erie and Niagara.
Okay.
Well, we don't want to take up too much of everybody's time, but we're very thankful for this conversation. I think it was really great learning about what everybody has experienced throughout this pandemic and then moving forward. And like I said, I will share all the resources that we have with you via email. I have all your emails, so I will send I can send you this PowerPoint and this, and then once we have the recording all set, we'll put that up on our website too. So if you want to share it with anybody, or if you forgot something and you want to refer back, this will be available online for everybody's use. So thank you so much for spending an afternoon with us. We really appreciate it. And hopefully, oh my gosh, this light. I don't know what's happening. All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. If you, like I say, if ever any of your questions or need us, feel free to always reach out to us. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Right. Bye.
Bye.
I think I know how to.